If you're working a 9 to 5 and you are looking at Amazon FBA as a way of building another income stream and maybe one day even leaving your job, the first big decision you'll make is which business model to follow. Choosing the wrong one can be the difference between building a real business and just building another side hustle that never really goes anywhere. I've tested these models myself. I've built an Amazon FBA business that has done over $500,000 in the last 12 months. I've learned what works and what doesn't. In this video, I'll walk through each business model, share some of the mistakes I've made, and hopefully help you figure out which path makes the most sense for you if your goal is to create more income, more freedom. Let's start with arbitrage. So this is where you buy a product at a discounted price and you flip it on Amazon for a profit. Really simple concept. Now on the surface, this can sound quite exciting because you can go into stores, find some products on sale and see they're selling for more on Amazon. It's a bit of a treasure hunt to find these products. The problem is that it's a treasure hunt. It's the modern day version of like rummaging through a car boot sale or a garage sale and finding products that are worth more than they're being sold for, basically. The very first bit of money my business made online was through this method. But we bought a Nike boot bag and we resold it on Amazon, and after all the fees, we made 7p. 7p. After sourcing it, packaging it, sending it into Amazon, that's not exactly a good hourly rate. But that is the reality of arbitrage, is that after all these fees, after you've shipped it, you've maybe even got some returns, you're only left with literally pennies after each sale. And if you do find a product with decent margin, it's often just a matter of time before a load of other sellers jump on and the price just tanks. And sometimes you're even left with stock that is just worth nothing. Here's a Nike bag. It's got over 20 sellers just scrapping over this same product. And when you've got that many people fighting for the same product, chances are the price is only going to go one direction. You can be left with, at best, like a few p. If you time it right, you might make $1. And arbitrage really is just like running on a treadmill to try and get into shape. You burn calories whilst you're on the treadmill, but you never build any muscle. Your physique never really changes. Nothing keeps working when you step off the treadmill. The calories don't keep burning. It's just pure active income. There's no brand building, there's no real momentum, there's nothing really left behind because you're constantly just chasing the next product, waiting for one to stop working, finding a new one. And it's this just endless cycle. Now, to be fair, some people love that constant hustle. They love going into stores, scanning the shelves or searching the internet, just looking for deals. And maybe that lifestyle works for them, right? But for me, I always wanted to build something different. I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to sit and watch the football, watch Man United lose when they should have won again. And at least when that happens, feel better knowing that I made some money whilst I was sitting on the sofa. So this model really just didn't suit what my aim was. If the aim is to have more freedom, to spend more time with your family, this model probably isn't going to get you there. Next, we've got wholesale. So this is where you buy products in bulk and usually from a distributor or from a brand, sometimes directly, and then you resell them on Amazon again for a profit. At first glance, this looks more professional. And it probably is. You've got consistent stock, you've got bulk pricing, and you're not running around shops trying to hunt for deals. But in reality, it's just not much better than arbitrage. Wholesale is just a bit more structured hustle, really. And you're usually selling on listings with, again, sometimes 20, 30 sellers on the same listing. You're all just fighting for the buy box, and in that situation, again, the price just drops. This means that ultimately your margins just get destroyed. You're fighting over scraps again. You're maybe making 5% profit. That really means that if you sell a product for $20, you're making $1 profit for every sale. And even if you're making $1 per unit, new sellers eventually join. And that round of stock you bought that you thought was going to be profitable is barely breaking even. Or even worse, it's just costing you money. And this was something I learned really early on in my business. I once sold a batch of mascara, I think it was, or it was some kind of makeup. And it made a little bit of profit at the start. And we were selling maybe like, I think we sold over 100 units of stock. And I'm thinking like, here we go. This is working. We're off here. But all of a sudden the taps turned off. I couldn't buy any more stock. Overnight, there was no profit coming in. And that really is the danger with wholesale too, is that even when you think you've cracked it, you've got a great product, you've got good pricing, the supply isn't yours, the brand isn't yours, and the price is just completely out of your control a lot of the time. One day you think you're in the game, and the next it just runs dry, and you're in this cycle again. And it's literally like the equivalent of a spin class. You're pedaling hard, you're sweating, but you're never really going anywhere. And you might get a bit fitter in the process, you might learn a few things, you might make a bit of money. But you're stuck in the same room doing the same thing as everyone else, and you've got no momentum when that finishes. It's busy, it's repetitive, it's a lot of sweat, but you never ultimately build anything that really lasts in most cases. And again, some people like the hustle of finding products that make pennies, but ultimately for me, this wasn't another method that was going to build freedom and create that time to spend with family and ultimately like leave my job. Finally, we have private label. So this is where you actually create your own branded product. You work with the supplier, a manufacturer, to build the product, to make it different from what's already out there, and you add your own branding to it. You launch it under your own listing, and this is why it's different, is that you own the buy box, you own the listing. And if you've done everything right, nobody else can jump on that listing. It's all yours. You can set the price, you set the branding, you set the customer experience. And instead of making pennies, you can really build something that generates momentum and can actually reach like 20, 30% margins. Now the catch is, it does take more upfront work than these other methods. It requires doing more research up front. You've got to really know the market you're going into. You've got to research the product, research the market, work closely with a supplier to develop the product and really build a brand. So there's a lot of work that goes in up front. It doesn't give you that quick hit of cash that maybe arbitrage or wholesale can sometimes do. But here is the payoff with this method, is that, to stick with the gym analogy, it's more like strength training, where not only are you burning calories whilst you're training, but you're building muscle and you're building momentum, you're building energy that works for you, even when you're no longer working out. And all of that is compounding. The effort you put in up front pays off tomorrow, it pays off in the weeks, months, even years ahead, and ultimately ends up working for you whilst you're sleeping. And those days where you go to bed and you wake up and you've made hundreds of dollars are a very nice feeling. And this is the model that I currently use now, and it's night and day compared to when I was flipping a boot bag and making 7p profit, or selling makeup and the taps just turn off the next day. That was just hustling for scraps, right? That was just grinding away to try and make a little bit of cash. And with private label, I don't ever have to worry about the taps just turning off or somebody jumping on my listing, because I can just get them booted off. And ultimately, I decide the price. I decide the product, the branding. I get to build something that really lasts and is a really valuable asset that can even be sold in the future for hundreds of thousands, potentially millions, which you can't do with arbitrage and wholesale. So think of it like this. Arbitrage is cardio on a treadmill. You're burning calories, but nothing really lasts. Wholesale is group training in a spin class. You had lots of effort, everyone's doing the same thing, but you're never really moving forward. And private label is actually strength training and getting into shape. You're putting in some hard work up front, but it keeps paying you back. You actually change and you actually really build something that compounds over time. Now, arbitrage and wholesale, they teach you the ropes. It's where my business started. But long term, it's not the method you want to go down if you really want to build a life of freedom. If you really want to have that kind of dream business where you still put in the work. You still have to do the work. It's not just complete passive income, but you can actually go on holiday and still make money whilst you're doing it. You can travel around and you still make money whilst you're doing that. You can spend time with your family. You can go to the pub with your mates and it's all working for you. And for me, that was just the point of starting a business. Every hour I put in, I want it to compound. I don't want it to be some work I put in and then I've got to go again for the same result every single time. I wanted more than that. I wanted something that works for me ultimately in the end. And it's something that just helps you build the life of freedom that you really want. It's not easy. It's not just complete passive income, but it is something that can compound and something that can actually build you real wealth. And if that is something you are interested in starting, I've got some free stuff below. I've also just opened up some one-to-one consulting that I'm doing. Feel free to check that out in the link below and book in a slot. I hope this video is useful for you and gives you a bit of direction on which way to go if you want to use Amazon as a vehicle to have more freedom in your life and start a business. I've also got another video that I'll put here, which will show you the exact system that I use to launch products on Amazon. I'll catch you in the next one.